This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up? Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, along with my buddy, my co-partner, JD. JD, how you doing? I said co-partner, I mean co-host, co-partner, co-host, all the same thing, right?
Yeah, I'm doing just dandy.
I'm a little out of practice because it's been a while since you and I recorded. Most people are going to be like, Ricky, it's past Monday. Why didn't we get a draft room? It's because JD and I got busy and we're recording this on Monday, a week later or a weekend later than we normally do.
Yeah, life just comes at us sometimes, you know?
like a linebacker over the middle. Like we're just that wide receiver running through. Hey, there's the ball. Oh wait. Oh, I'm gonna get hit, and we just got smacked this weekend. But we got we got a good show. I usually say jam packed. This isn't really a jam packed show. We're really talking about one thing today, and it's a certain quarterback that some people might be down on. Before we get into everything, though, remember, if you like the video, hit that like button. If you love it, hit that subscribe button. You can support us, Patreon link down below. If you want to be in the Discord, MVP Discord, that link is down below. The website with the schedule of everything, that is down below. And also leave a comment on anything we talk about today. Join the conversation down below. JD, today what we are talking about is Mr. Caleb Williams. We haven't talked about him enough, right? I feel like every week there's a Caleb Williams story.
Yeah, we might as well just name the show the Caleb Williams Show.
Well, I mean, I feel like Caleb Williams would have a problem with that since he's not on the show. We should do the draft room according to Caleb Williams, or the draft room featuring Caleb Williams, because he's always on the show one way or another. But I felt like this had to be talked about, JD, because the last 2 weeks, we didn't badger it when USC lost to Notre Dame, but now you have pretty much 3 straight weeks of Arizona did not, like, the whole, I'm talking about the whole team, did not play well. If I look at the stats from Caleb Williams that game, 14 for 25, that's a 56 completion percentage, 219 yards, only 1 touchdown. First game all year, he's only had 1 touchdown. Then Notre Dame, they lose on the road. He has 1 touchdown, 3 INTs. First time in a game this year, he's had more than 3 INTs. The only other team to pick him off was the, Colorado Buffaloes. And then this week, they lose at home, at home, to number 14 Utah, without Cam Rising. I want to put that in there. Without Cam Rising, lose to Utah. I'm going to ask you, JD, to start this off. Everyone's kind of now questioning Caleb Williams. Do you think that questioning Caleb Williams at the top of the draft is the right thing to do? Or is this the... I can't even compare it to this because Zion never struggled. But is this just the similar to like Zion and Ja Morant, where it's like, no, he's still number 1, but the guy behind him, let's say Michael Penix or Drake May, whoever you have 2, they're still good. Like, is it like that? Or should we be questioning, is he the if de facto number 1 quarterback in this draft?
So my opinion on it is that I still think he's the number 1 QB in the class, but I would, note it. I would just, write a little note about it, because I think it was from, I'm pretty sure it's from the broadcast, because I saw it going around on Twitter. But so basically there's a stat, it's a bunch of stats. So Caleb Williams against non-top 25 teams. This is just from like the whatever, the CBS or whatever it was on, or ESPN. But versus non-top 25 teams, he has 23 starts. His completion percentage is 70.3%, and passing yards per game is 317.2, and his TD to interception ratio is 78-7. Then versus top 25 teams, he has 5 starts and a 51.4 completion percentage, 172 yards per game, and 6 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Now, again, you could kind of say, you can kind of compare it to CJ Stroud in his career at Ohio State. He in the big games he didn't do too well.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my concern for Stroud coming into the draft was
Mhm.
okay, well, if when he's playing against the best competition, he's not doing well. How is he gonna do against NFL talent? So that's kind of why for me with Caleb Williams, I'm just noting it down because clearly it's not something that will for sure determine how his NFL career turns out to be,
Mm-hmm.
but it definitely is notable because again, I just listed the stats. His stats are significantly better against worse competition, which it should be. But for
Mm-hmm.
somebody as hyped up as he has been since a freshman,
Mm-hmm.
you would like to see him not necessarily dominate against top 25 teams, but do a lot better than what he has done.
Well, here's the thing that, like, and yet again, I hate to be like a stat watcher or seem like a stat watcher here because, like, so I remember watching the game where they played Arizona. And I watched most of the first 3 quarters as I was like, I'm going to go to bed in the 4th. And then, they came back and won in triple overtime. The thing that I couldn't help but watch or think about while watching is the Arizona team, especially in the first half, seemed like it seemed like, okay, you come into, and it wasn't even like a road game for USC. It almost seemed like they were playing in Arizona to me, even though they weren't. Like, it just seemed like Arizona was ready for that moment. They were coached up for that moment. And they were just offense, defense, having their way with the Trojans. And I almost look at that and I go, okay, I know that if you look at the stats, it ain't like the game before against Colorado when he had 6 touchdowns. But, like, we have to give some credit to, hey, overcoming a deficit, coming back, even though you should have blown that team out on paper. Then the ND game happened, and I would say the ND game is the worst game that Caleb Williams has played this year. That he had the most interceptions that he had, the least yards that he've had, completion percentage, not the least, but second least. He had worse completion percentage against Arizona. He just didn't play well in that game. And then you look at Utah. Yeah, they lost to Utah, but, like, if you look at how he played, the only thing that I would have criticism with how he played against Utah was they didn't get in the end zone. And there's a part of me that says, okay, Caleb Williams, I don't want to let him off the hook completely. If you are going to be the number 1 quarterback of a draft, you are expected to be a game changer. You are expected to beat the tough opponents, beat the weak opponents. But I look at the flip side and I go, coaching. Should we be putting some onus on Lincoln Riley? Because let's be honest, Lincoln Riley and his teams of the past, not world beaters. They beat the cupcakes. They don't beat the teams that are like, oh, here's a real opponent. Oh, here's a big stage. Okay, I'm going to kind of poop the bed here kind of a thing. Like, is this more of a, yes, we put some onus on Caleb Williams a little bit because you have to. You can't let him off scotch-free. But should we be putting more onus of, like, hey, maybe this goes into Lincoln Riley coaching? And also, I'm looking, the Arizona game is the one I look at the most. It's like, yeah, the offense wasn't playing well, but dude, the defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. Now, put a little asterisk there because the defense, when you're on the field as much as they were in that game, you're going to be gassed, and that's kind of part of the reason. But should we be putting some onus on Lincoln Riley and not everything on Caleb Williams? I guess that's kind of the whole point of my rant.
Yeah, 100%, especially because this is college after all.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people, myself included at times, we look at these college athletes like they're in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Like that it should be as clean and crisp
Like
as
they're pros.
yeah. And I think coaching
Mm-hmm.
is it's more what's the word? It's more crucial, I would say. It's more important, I would
Mm-hmm.
say, in college than the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, you're dealing with kids, or young adults or whatever, right? These are guys who they're still learning the game. Once you get to the NFL, sure you can improve upon your game,
Mm-hmm.
but like it's like I would say a little like there's more margin, like or there's more margin to improve in college.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so with Lincoln Riley, of course I think he deserves some of the blame because he's not getting his team who people had as a top 4 team coming in. And yeah, like he's not preparing them because on paper they are a very good team and they shouldn't be struggling against Utah with no Cam Rising, or even I would say Notre Dame they shouldn't have been struggling against.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do think that he has to take some blame. But again, like we've talked about with Caleb Williams, if he's as good as people have been him up to be,
Mm-hmm.
and he should be, then you would also like to see him take the mantle and lead the team despite coaching issues.
Dude, this is such a hard thing because it's like I agree with, but it's like when you agree with both sides.
Yeah.
Because like I'm pulling up now Lincoln Riley's past schedules, and it's like last year, maybe we just look at it, especially for this week. Maybe Utah just has the plan on how to beat Lincoln Riley's Trojans, because this is now the third time that they have played. Third consecutive loss when this Utah team has played a Lincoln Riley USC team. Last year at Utah, number 7 USC, number 20 Utah. Utah wins 43-42. They meet again in the Pac-12 championship game in Las Vegas. Number 4 USC, number 11 USC, or Utah, number 11 Utah. USC on the verge of a playoff spot. Boom, they get spanked 47-24, get bounced from the playoff. Oh, and then bowl games I'm going to leave out of it because we all know that most athletes don't play. They don't play bowl games, especially like you look at Christian McCaffrey. But like I look at others, I'm looking at his other years. 2021 is last year in Oklahoma. Yeah, they had a great year. But number 13 Baylor, they lose. And they were the higher ranked team, Oklahoma. Then they go into Oklahoma State, their rivalry game. They lose that one. If I go back to 2020, the COVID year, I know I'm going to put that asterisk on it because it was a different year. Go ahead.
So wait, I just want to ask, I don't know if you have, if you don't, it's fine.
Go ahead.
How did he do in the Red River rivalry with him in Texas?
He won. I'll keep that into consideration. Yeah. He won 2022 and he won 2021. Okay. Because the only losses he had in 2022 were Baylor and OK State. The only ones in 2021 were KSU and Iowa State. So they weren't even great teams. 2019, I'll look at Texas. They beat Texas that year. Their only losses were they lose to K-State in the season, and then they lose to number 1 LSU in the playoff. The number 2019, that was the Joe Burrow team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he lost to the best team in football that year. 2018, his second year at Oklahoma, I believe, he loses to Texas and then lost to number 1 Alabama in the playoff. Those were his only 2 losses in 2018. And then 2017, his first year, they lose to Iowa State, and then they lose to Georgia in the playoff. So, like, maybe Lincoln Riley defenders are going to say, whoa. But Ricky, 3 of those losses in the first 3 years were to number 1 SEC, number 1 SEC, number 1 SEC, which I go, I kind of look at it and go, yeah, but you're losing the big game. You're losing that. That's a big opponent. That's a big game. You should be winning, and you're losing. I just look at it and I go, maybe we should be throwing some shade that way. And like the other question that I saw on Twitter that I honestly wouldn't be against if I'm Caleb Williams, I wouldn't be against it if you're not coming back to college. There's some people on Twitter now saying, hey, Caleb should just sit the rest of the year. team's not going to make the playoff. Just sit the rest of the year, don't get injured, work on the draft.
Yeah, I mean that's what like I don't want to say a lot of quarterbacks. You don't really see that with the top quarterback prospect.
But would
But
that look like he's quitting on the team and look like a bad thing?
it will definitely be spun that way.
Mm-hmm.
It would definitely be spun that way. Because yeah, you've seen that in basketball as well, like college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to consider.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, like it's still we're only at the halfway point, right? Like
Yeah.
usually you don't see that until until like week 13.
Mm-hmm.
So because there's that big break period between like the bowl games, they'll probably skip the bowl game and then that way they can just prepare. But yeah, like I just don't see a world that he will do that because especially with now the narrative that we've talked about with him not playing up to these big games, I think he's going to want to finish the season really strong to solidify himself as that number 1 QB.
Well, I feel like he has to, because one of the things this week, JD, that I think he lucked out with is that Michael Penix did not have a great game this week against, I think they played ASU. That Washington team they had the biggest game of their life where they won and then came out and barely beat Arizona State, which Arizona State, good team. They fight hard. I don't want to disrespect them, but like it was not the game I was expecting to see from Michael Penix and that Huskies team. Drake May also, there's been concerns with people about Drake May and what he's been doing. They lose to Virginia this past week. Then you've got Quinn Ewers. He's injured. I think it's AC joint. He's going to miss some time. Like, you got people like Dave Portnoy, big Michigan fan with Barstool. He's talking up his dude, J.J. McCarthy. Oh, he could be in the mix. I'm still not completely sold on J.J. McCarthy as a top-end quarterback talent. And then you got people talking about Riley Leonard, who seems like that Duke team goes when he's out there, and when they're not, he don't go. Or they don't go, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, I watched that FSU and Duke game, and I said it in the college football chat in our MVP Discord. This FSU team is the luckiest team. They like credit to them for capitalizing on it, but like I'm convinced Duke would have won that game if Riley Leonard didn't get hurt. He looked very good, and he's somebody who I am gonna dig more into because I mean he's moving his way up draft boards, and I mean he's been very, very good, which I didn't really expect. But yeah, I mean, it like you're right though about Caleb Williams being lucky from just the other quarterback situations from this week because I was ready to put Penix in as QB1 after this week. I think he's had a really, really, really good season. Boy. But yeah, but then he struggled when he shouldn't have. So that's why like this quarterback class, like after Caleb Williams, like again, it's getting close now. I mean, especially after the last few weeks, but it's I don't know. Some like one of these QBs needs to really start to step up and solidify them as the number 1 guy.
I'll be honest too. I think that narrative wise, because they're going to be in more big games, I think Penix is in the driver's seat now. Just because his team is still playoff bound, and because if Penix and Washington go on, even if they make the playoff, if they make the national championship game, I think people are going to be like, oh, well, see, he did that. Why couldn't Caleb Williams do that? And like Caleb Williams, it's not like USC isn't stacked around him.
Exactly.
They've got Ty on one side. He's got Little Rice on the other side. He's got Marshawn in the backfield. Like, this offense has weapons for him to throw to. And that's why I almost look at it and I go, we should be putting a little bit of onus on the coach because it's his job to pull everyone together. But at the same time, it's the player's job to play up. JD, I told you beginning of the show before we recorded, I had a surprise question for you. And I want to take this segue into the last thing I want to talk about because they kind of relate. So I don't know if you remember this, but we had a YouTube comment. Second show. I want to say this was our second show of the year. Do you remember what we talked about second show of this season of the Draft Room?
I'm guessing Caleb Williams.
Close. We talked about Justin Fields.
Oh, okay.
And there was a guy at Gary, at Gary G Win 5818. And I roasted this comment to you privately. I'm going to throw that out there. So Gary, I half apologized for this because, I was like, really, we're going to throw out this guy. Here's what the comment said. Hello, football rocket scientist. I do not have a degree in football rocket scientry, but I need to. Should I make a fake degree like from Football University that says Bachelor of Football Science or Football Rocket Science and call myself a football rocket science?
Yeah. Got a shirt and everything.
I wear a lab coat each show. The rocket scientist is in. Yeah. But he says, hello, football rocket scientist. Put an S on there. JD's here too. The Bears have and this part was in all caps, all-time NCAA touchdown record holder, now regular, not all caps, tanking 14 games? That's pathetic even to say. You don't get better at anything by trying. And I remember at the time going, who is he talking? Like, Justin Fields didn't lead all time. And then it was like, and I'm going to say his name wrong. I'm a Chicagoan, and this is the proper way to say it. He was talking about Tyson Baggett. Little Baggett out there. You get rid of the end. That's what we do. We're just getting rid of the end. It's Tyson Baggett. He played this weekend, JD. Bears won. I don't know if you knew that. 30-12 against the Raiders. 21 of 29 completion percentage. That's really good. 162 yards, 1 touchdown, was only sacked once. 2-part question for you, JD. The fake question leading into the real question. First off, is Tyson the guy? Is he the guy for the Bears? Is he the one that's like, hey, we got Tyson. We don't need Caleb. We're fine. We don't need Penix. We're fine. We got Tyson, baby. The baguette is here.
No. No. No.
He's 1-0 as a starter. Bear fans are now thinking, I've talked to a few of them. They're thinking, hey, man, train might be on the road. We might be able to get back to the playoffs.
Yeah, one more win and he has more than Justin Fields.
But seriously, though, this is the serious question with it. With the Tyson Baggett, I think is how you really say it, Baggett, with him, if he plays well for the Bears, right now after week 2, the Bears actually hurt themselves. Thank you, Bears. Thank you, Packers. Thank you, Washington. Thank you, Buffalo. I'm personally thanking all these teams because there was no way the Patriots should have won, the Giants should have won, the Broncos should have won, and the Bears should have won. They're the only ones out of the winners that I'm actually thanking is the Bears because I think they actually won their game and the Raiders didn't spoil it because the Raiders had Brian Hoyer out there. They helped the Vikings by being back in primetime contention for a top 5 spot. We just got to hope the Vikings lose tonight to the Niners because, we're tanking for that top pick. But the real question is, if Tyson plays well, JD, Bears right now sit at 1-3, 1 being Carolina, 3 being themselves. Let's say end of the year, that's the situation. Bears are at 1, Cardinals are at 2, Bears are then at 3. Should the Bears think in that situation, because of what Caleb Williams has done and because of, hey, maybe we got someone in Tyson here, would it be wise of the Bears to take Maserati Marv number 1 and not Caleb Williams?
I don't think so because, again, quarterback is such a needy position and with wide receiver, like even if they got Marv at with the first pick, I still don't see him changing that team too much. I think if they're at 1-3, they'll do basically what the Texans did, and get quarterback and top edge rusher. So
You think they'll trade 3 and picks for 2?
not necessarily that. Like I don't think they'll.
No, you're
have
saying
to.
take quarterback 1 and then take
Yeah.
edge. Okay.
Yeah. If they're at 1-3, if they're like 1-5, yeah, maybe they'll trade up to get another top 3 pick. But I mean, yeah, I just see them it's time to move on from Justin Fields. It hasn't worked out. He's not the guy. Even with all the stuff I said about Caleb Williams, I'm just going to assume that he will be okay, and you got to take him. Like if you're a Bears fan, you're banging on the table for that. If you want to be competitive finally and not just stay mediocre, you have to move on before you're just stuck in the middle for another 5 years or whatever it might be.
You know what? I'm torn. I'm going to say this, and this is a classic Ricky thing. If they're at 1-3, I have one plan. If they're at 1 and anything else, 4, 5, 6, 7, then I have a different plan. If they're at 1 and 4 and higher, like so 4, 5, 6, 7, take Caleb Williams number 1. Just take him number 1. If you're at 1 and 3, I kind of hate that I'm going to say this, JD, but I'm going to say it. I would not take Caleb Williams number 1.
Who would you take?
I would take Maserati Marv. I would take Marvin Harrison. By the way, a lot of people are going to hate that I'm calling him Maserati Marv, because apparently people got really upset at Gus Johnson with how many times he said Maserati Marv in that Penn State-Ohio State game. But no, if they're at 1 and 3, Marvin Harrison Jr. is my pick. Because how I'm thinking right now, and this is me, Caleb Williams is my number 1 quarterback. I need to say that right now so people know. But just like Will Levis was my favorite quarterback last year, Michael Penix is my favorite quarterback this year. And if I'm the Bears, I'm sorry, I'm taking this and saying, hey, there's only one pick in between us. I'll take the bona fide wide receiver. I'll have Marvin Harrison Jr. on one side, who some are saying is possibly the best wide receiver talent that we've seen in the X amount of years in the draft. Son of Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer. Don't know exactly if he's in or not. He should be in if he's not. I think he's right. Marvin Harrison's in the Hall of Fame, right?
Right. I don't know because of his history.
Someone fact check me on that, because I don't know everyone that's in the Hall of Fame. Legend, I'll say. Legend wide receiver, Marvin Harrison. And on the other side, I get DJ Moore. That's my 1-2. 2 or at 3, I don't care what quarterback I get, Caleb Williams or Penix, because of what I have for them to throw to. And I like Penix just as much as I like Caleb Williams. With me personally, I don't think there is that big of a window between them both. I don't think so. I think there is a big possibility that Penix could jump Caleb Williams as the number 1 quarterback. He is my favorite, but I'll let this be. I'm a little biased because I've been on the Michael Penix bandwagon since he was at Indiana, JD. I've loved him since I saw him play at Indiana, and I'm like, this kid is going to be special. That's how long I've been on the Penix bandwagon. So for me, I'd take Maserati Marv number 1. Let the Cardinals do whatever they want. If they want Caleb Williams, fine. Take another Lincoln Riley quarterback, and he'll probably fail in Arizona. Or if that point, like the other interesting thing that would change this is if, I'm not even going to throw that out. I would take Marvin Harrison number 1, and then I would take Penix 3 would probably be what I do.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, like, because Marvin Harrison is going to be a very good receiver, but I just look at that Bears team and their defense stinks. And again, what do we say is arguably the most important position in football?
Edge rush and quarterback.
Yeah. So you have a chance to get the top quarterback and the top edge rusher like the Texans did. And it seems to be working pretty well for them.
They also have a coach who kind of seems to know what he's doing. Like,
Yeah,
I'll be honest, when they made the hiring, I remember being like, oh, D'Amico Ryan's going to know what to do. He did good things with the Niners, and it's like, you know what? I kind of have some faith that he's going to be a good head coach in the NFL. We just got to get him talent.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's really iffy because who knows if the Bears front office is going to make any type of like coaching change or anything like that. But yeah, I just think having a chance to get a top edge rusher and a quarterback is ideal, especially when their weapons. I mean, they're not great. Like, I do really like DJ Moore, so I am okay with him being my number one for now. But again, especially if this wide receiver class is as deep as we think it might be, there's a chance you can get a stud wide receiver in the second round. So that's why I wouldn't rush it.
True. But here's the thing I'm going to say in retort to that. True, you might be able to get a stud wide receiver in the second round, but I think the gap between wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 is mountains compared to quarterback 1 and quarterback 2.
See, I that's where I disagree.
I think I'm going to say it's like a Mount Everest window for the wide receivers. That's how good Maserati Marv is.
Sure, but look, he's been injured pretty much the entire time. He's he's when he's on the field, he's had good games. But I look at someone again who I love. I mean, I would still put Marvin Harrison above him just because it's a smart thing to do. But on a personal level, I love Keon Coleman a lot more than I love Marvin Harrison. So, but that's just mainly because Marvin Harrison's injured a lot. Here's
the other thing to look at too, and this is with the Bears. Depending on what they do re-signing people, the Bears also have right now, take all their expiring contracts at the end of the year, make them go away. They're going to have $96 million in cap space. And the thing I love about the NFL, JD, that I don't love about the NBA is that free agency happens before the draft like it should. Let me get the pros. Let me get the vets to fill in these holes before, like, oh, I need these holes. Let me fill them with competent veterans. Oh, now I have more holes. Let me now get the rookies.
Exactly. I mean, it makes the draft process so much more like not necessarily predictable, but it just paints a clear picture.
Yeah. And I don't mean to cut you off, but the one thing that they could do with this $96 million they could have, Leonard Williams, Daniel Hunter, Carl Lawson, Marcus Davenport. You've got guys out there that maybe they snatch up one of these edge rushers, and then, okay, that changes it. Edge rusher's not as big of a need anymore.
I mean, sure.
JD's like, I'd grab one and still grab an edge rusher in the draft.
Because you need two. You at least need two. And I mean, yeah, like and just a lot of those guys you mentioned are in their later 20s to 30s. So I would rather have that young edge rusher who has all the potential in the world to actually be a top edge rusher. But yeah, I mean, like it is. You are right. Like I do like the fact that you can kind of predict more from like what happens in free agency to the draft. It makes more sense. But I mean, I think you can still, like, even if they go like defense heavy, I still think you can take a top, either if you don't want an edge rusher, you could still they could use corner. I still think defense is going to be what they try and hit if they have two top 5 picks, because they're not going to be able to hit everything in free agency, right?
So you're thinking like take Caleb Williams and then at 3 go with Jared Verse.
Yeah, or well, I mean, I would say Dallas
Verse.
Turner. Well, for me, I have Dallas Turner above him.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, either or.
I just would mean, you hit me with a conundrum, JD. It's like I'm speaking one thing And then JD's like, hey, let me throw what Ricky always says on podcasts back in his face. And now he's got to defend his point because you're right. Quarterback, edge rusher, two most important positions in football, and the Bears could get them both. I'll ask you this then, kind of question jumping off a question. Let's say the Bears do go Caleb Williams at 1 still. If you're the Cardinals, do you go with a Penix or a Drake May because it's like, you know what, Kyler's done no matter what? Or do you say, no, we got Kyler under contract, let's just go Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I'm going to take the cop-out answer because...
And say trade the pick?
Well, depending on who is behind them, if they can get away with trading back like 2 or 3 picks...
Let's say it's Chicago. Chicago's behind them.
And Chicago takes Caleb Williams?
Yes.
Then I'm probably going to be taking a quarterback.
Okay.
Because I'd be worried about somebody moving up to take Penix or Drake May.
Now I'm going to just list off other 2 and 5 teams to see if the answer changes. So with the Bears, you said Penix, right?
Yeah.
What if it's the Broncos?
I'd go Marvin Harrison.
What if it's the Giants?
I'd go quarterback.
What if it's the Patriots?
I'd also go quarterback.
Packers?
I'd go position player, like non-quarterback.
And then Vikings.
I would go quarterback.
Because I don't think, like, the other 2, Chargers?
No.
Texans?
No.
I don't think those teams are going to be high enough anyways, but those are all the 2 lost teams. I would say for me, if it's the Bears, I would try to work a trade with the Bears.
For their second pick?
I would try to do the same thing I did with Houston, because what I'm hoping for is that the Bears really want Williams and Maserati Marv, so that I could try to get more draft capital, move down 1 pick, still get a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Or at that point, get some, like, quarterback would probably be what I look for there, because Kyler Murray is donezo in my mind. If it's anybody else, like, Denver doesn't have the draft capital. Thank you, Russell Wilson. The Giants, I don't really know if they would be in. I don't know if the Giants would want to move up. The Patriots, they're not a move up team, but I think that I wouldn't trade with the Patriots because they'd be looking for a quarterback to replace Mac Jones. I think the Giants might they paid Danny Dimes, so I don't even know if they would draft a quarterback. The Packers wouldn't. So maybe, like, if it's the Packers, the Vikings, and the Bears, I would go to look to make trades. If it's not, I'm making my draft pick there. And if it's the Giants or the Patriots, I'm taking a quarterback. If it's Denver, Denver's interesting because Denver in the first round is not going to take a quarterback with how much they have Russell Wilson locked down, right? Like, they're kind of stuck because they can't trade him because nobody wants that contract. And what, are you just going to have that sit on your bench?
No. They would be in a position to do what Green Bay did with Aaron Rodgers and Love.
Because let's see, Russell Wilson, I want to see how many years are still left on that contract, because I'll be honest, I don't know off the top of my head. Do you know off the top of your head how many years he's got left on that deal? Because last year was his first, right?
Was it a sign and trade? Because if not, then I thought there was only like 3 more years left.
So if he goes the entire length of the contract, 2029, he will be a free agent. However, there is a potential out after the 2025 season, but they would take a $31 million dead cap hit.
They screwed themselves badly. Like that's horrendous.
He's got minus this year. He's got 4 years left after this one, 2 with a potential out. The only thing I can think of is, are you stuck with Wilson for at least 2 more years? And then after 2020, like maybe I could see that. Like you said, Jordan Love. Hey, let's draft the quarterback now, one that we can develop. And then after the 2025 season, when he only has 2 years left, that might be a little bit more digestible of a contract for a team to take on, because at that point he'll be, oh God, he's making $40 million in 2026 as a 38-year-old quarterback. He would have 3 years. I'm sorry, I was wrong. He's got 5 years left after this.
Yeah.
2, the potential out, and then 3. I think they're stuck with him for another 3 years after this one. I don't know if a team trades for him with 3 years left on that deal, especially with how he's playing now. 38-year-old Russell Wilson, no thank you.
What happens if he retires?
I thought about that, but I wouldn't if I'm getting that money. I wouldn't. I'll be honest. I'd be like, if you're not gonna play me, I'll sit on the bench and be the third stringer with that much money. Cut me and take the cap hit. I dare you. They won't do it. They won't do it. Like, Russell Wilson has all the cards in that situation.
I know this. I'm not trying to get into this topic
Go
heavily, but I said it when they made that trade. It made no sense because Russell Wilson was declining, and it was so obvious to see. I have no idea why they thought trading for him would be a good idea. Like they've just screwed themselves. They screwed themselves for years, for the next like 6 years or whatever you said, because of that cap hit. They're not going to be able to build a good team around that, and he's not the guy, and he's just going to get worse as the years go on.
Well, and the thing too, and this is, I've seen things about this with the Broncos, is that people are expecting them before the deadline and even like after the season to make trades, because if we look at their potential cap room for next year, they are sitting after this season at a cap room of minus $20.5 million. So they literally can't make any moves right now. Then if we even go to 2025, so in 2 years, their cap room only goes down to, where are they on this list? Oh man, where are they? Why can't I find them on this list? Oh yeah, their cap room then goes, like, all of their cap room then comes back $101 million. But like for this next season, they've got zero cap room to work with unless they move people. Zero cap room at all.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of is that they hope that Russell Wilson just sucks for the next couple years, and then they'll just, because like you said, they can't even sign anybody. So hope that you can just sell your guys like at the deadline, and then just have Russell Wilson suck for the next 2 years and try and do a quick retool and hope that Russell Wilson can somehow play football again. But I don't see it. I don't really understand it.
Let's see. Can I look at? Yeah. So here's the guys on the Broncos with the most cap hit. You ready for this? Russell Wilson, $55 million. He takes up 21.53% of their cap. The next guy, $21 million. Mike McGlinchey takes up 8.6%. Or I'm sorry, 8.16%.
They signed him this offseason, and he has not been good at all.
Cortland Sutton, $17.8 million, 6.9% of the cap. Then they have Zach Allen, $17 mil, Ben Powers, $15 mil, and then it drops to Alex Singleton, $7.3 mil.
Yeah, I mean, those last couple guys are tradable assets, but I mean, I feel bad for Broncos fans. That's going to be interesting to see how they get out of this.
JD, what do they say? Broncos country?
I don't know if they're riding anywhere. Maybe into the sunset.
JD, Broncos country?
Let's ride into
Let's
the sunset.
ride, baby. That's what they say. Broncos country? Let's ride.
Yeah, I don't know if
all the way to the
anywhere.
bank is what Russell Wilson said.
Yeah.
I do feel bad. Like, if I was a Bronco fan, I would feel hopeless. Why did Sean Payton take that job then?
Because I guess he thought that he could change Russell Wilson to be a good quarterback again. And the guys that they signed in free agency, they just overpaid for mid. Like Mike McGlinchey, I don't understand.
He was Notre Dame. He came out of Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, he was good out of the draft, and he was good his first couple of years with San Fran. But then the last couple of years he hasn't been that great of a right tackle, and they paid him the bag.
Yeah, I look at it like the top of this draft is going to be very interesting as we keep going with things. Because like right now, last thing I'll kind of pose with before we get out of here, but like you have because of this last week, a lot of teams at the top won and made it a race again, made it a tank war again. Really now, let's be honest, the Bears and the Cardinals are in the driver's seat, and the Bears are only in the driver's seat because will the Panthers win a game this year?
I think they will win a game or two.
I don't think they will, and there's a reason why. You know what really upset me about the Panthers?
What?
Did you hear the comments that Frank Reich made about the owner?
No.
Apparently, Frank Reich has to have a meeting with the owner every week where basically the owner's like giving his 2 cents on what to do. And in a press conference, JD mentioned these talks with the owner, said, oh, he's a great guy, and then said, but I wouldn't categorize these meetings as fun. It sounds like, dude, just let your coach do his job.
Exactly, and that's my biggest problem with not just in the NFL, but any sports owner. If you're an owner, you hire people to do the sports thing. You're just there signing paychecks and
unless you're Jerry
funding.
Jones.
But even still, you hire people to do these. You are not the like I deal with it in Cincinnati. I know a bunch of other teams do. Hire the people to do the sports thing. You are a businessman.
Or you could be like the Bears and the Bulls and just like, you know, the McCaskies. I don't even know if what's her name? Virginia knows what's going on at this point. Yeah. Same thing with Reinsdorf. Playoff money? Playoff money? All right, we made the plan. I got my money. Okay. Like that. You could have that too.
I mean, I don't know, man. Sports owners kind of they rub me the wrong way.
Before we get out of here, we're gonna find a win for the Panthers. You ready for this? Week 8 at home against Houston.
No.
Week 9 at home against Indianapolis.
Maybe.
Week 10 at Chicago. The Bears can't win that. The Bears can't win no matter what they do.
I don't know, man. I think that's a winnable game.
Thursday night football too, so you know it's going to be a bad game.
That's Thursday night game. Panthers and Bears.
Week 10, November 9th.
Oh, I was gonna say, I wish it was later that month.
Oh man. Then November 19th, week 11, Dallas at home. Panthers are at home. At Tennessee.
Nope.
At Tampa.
Nope.
At New Orleans.
No, maybe. Honestly, New Orleans sucks this year.
Home against Atlanta.
Maybe.
Home against Green Bay.
No.
At Jacksonville.
No.
Home against Tampa.
Maybe because if Tampa is leading the division by a bit, then they could just sit their guys.
Yeah.
So they could win like 3 games. But I don't know.
Yeah, I'm telling you. They're like maybe Indianapolis since AR's out. Maybe Chicago because like I say maybe Chicago because honestly Bears fans are not going to care about this because they'll actually want to win this game. What'll probably happen week 10 is the Panthers will come into that game 1 win, and then the Bears are like, all right, we got to win this game, make sure that the Panthers stay top of the draft, and the Bears will lose. Bears will lose and screw themselves in the draft.
Didn't that happen last year? The Bears needed to lose the final game.
No, it was Houston. Houston needed to lose to the Bears, and Lovey's like, hell no, I'm not going to lose to the Bears. Got to take out my revenge.
I knew the Bears were involved.
Yeah, they were. It was Lovey that screwed himself. Yeah, maybe the Bears, maybe the Titans, maybe one divisional game. They're not going to get more than one win the rest of the year. Their only win this year, oh wait, they haven't won. That's right. That's right. The Cardinals, they might not win another game either. I mean, let's be honest, they lucked into a win. The Cowboys played terribly that game. Do you think the Cardinals get another win?
I think they do. They've been actually playing some underrated football.
Do you think Kyler comes back, or do they play Dobbsy the rest of the way?
I mean, Dobbs.
Do they play Dobby the rest of the way?
No, I think they'll play Kyler because Dobbs has been kind of trending down.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's a backup. What do you expect?
I know, but based on how he started the season, he's like.
It's like teams got film on him and then figured him out.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm not saying this to you. I'm just saying this in general. Like, that's how it works. like Tyson in Chicago, teams will get film on him and how he works in the offense. And guess what? He won't be as great as he was against the Raiders. Last thing we'll do, Cardinals. They're 1-6 right now. At home against Baltimore, do they win?
No.
At Cleveland. JD's like, I hope they win.
yeah, screw Cleveland.
No, they won't beat Cleveland. Home against Atlanta. I don't know. Desmond Ridder stinks.
I mean, hey, maybe Bijan won't play.
At Houston.
No.
Home against the Rams.
No.
At Pittsburgh.
No.
Bye week. Home against San Francisco.
No.
At Chicago?
Maybe.
At Philly?
No.
Home against Seattle?
No.
Yeah, again, not many games for these teams to win. We might be looking at Bears, Cardinals fighting for the number 1 pick. But JD, any final thoughts before we wrap this shindig up?
I mean, there's just some bad football teams. And then all need quarterbacks.
Oh, it's a lot of mid this year. Not a lot of good this year.
Exactly.
Not a lot of good this year. But that is going to do it for the draft room today. Let us know what you guys think down below. Remember, if you want to join the greatest community in the universe, Discord, down below. Remember to check out the website. We're going to have stuff going up on there. JD's big board will be updated this week as 2.0 is coming out very, very soon. Also, NBA stuff will be there. Schedule's already there. Go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We'll be back in 2 more weeks, regularly scheduled time and posting schedule for next week. I want to thank everyone for watching, listening, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you may be. And as always, have a good day, everybody. As always, we'd like to thank the people that make these videos possible, our patrons whose names are displayed on the screen now. If you would like to become a patron, go ahead and click the Patreon icon in the bottom right. And if you'd like to check out another video from MVP Sports, hit the video in the upper left. As always, thanks for watching.